So, today I am once again making another BP video. But today we're going to talk about something really interesting. Something called Hideo Kojima. Now you may be thinking, why would he talk about our Lord and Savior Hideo? If this is a retrospective, why isn't he just reading a Wikipedia article for 2 hours? Now this is the main difference between me, the man, the myth, the legend, PLP, and those low quality YouTubers that you usually watch. Because I'm not going to just read a Wikipedia article for 2 hours to make a video about 6 hours long about a game or anything in particular that you guys always do. So, without more recollection, I know you're asking, will this man talk about MGS for hours? No, there will be like some small pauses where I'm just going to put some gameplay, some image, some stuff for you to look besides my beautiful face. But it's just about time we are started. Who is Hideo Kojima? Our little man Hideo is a Japanese man, and with the power of autism, he makes games. Now, you may be asking, are these games good? I'm afraid there are not good games. But that is something that we must discuss right now. That is something that our world has to understand. And so, it is time for us to embark in this journey. Hideo was born a long time ago. I don't fucking care how long, but it was a long time ago. And then he was abandoned by their parents. He was a lonely boy. He was some kind of a West taboo in Japan. And the Japanese don't like that. If you are a West taboo in Japan, I'm afraid you will be some kind of a liberal, some kind of a progressive in Japan, which is very hard. Our man Hideo is no longer married, and his infance was just being alone, watching movies without any of his family around. He will spend time alone, just watching movies. That is the life of our man Hideo. And so, being a lonely kid without no one to talk to, but just to watch movies, he failed to be a cinema guy. And in the end, he just entered Konami to be one of the worst employees I have seen in my entire fucking life. And so then it becomes the legend of Hideo. So, let's talk about metal here and how it is absolute trash. All started with MGS. Now I know some of you maybe a little bit of sums. You may be, I don't know, I don't care. But it all started with these NS games where you just were in a top-down perspective, and you will just go around, and they're really simple games. I got to say they're really simple and stuff, but they're also really cool. Except that, as you can see right now, all of the characters are like traced. They're just traced characters, which is really bad, Hideo. You know, there is this thing called copyright, Hideo. And this is something that you will see all around this man's career. And so then, our Lord and Savior Hideo Kojima just copy this stuff. which is really bad, if you ask me. It's really bad. But Hideo was no, he was not surprised with it. He was not very good with it. And so Hideo just made a very classic story of, hey, you are a secret agent, go here, kill the bad guy. Oh no, the bad guy is actually your boss. That's all. That's all. Yes, you have some interesting stuff with Frank Yeager and some of the stuff that is in the game, but not much to be said. And then it came MGS1. With MGS1, our main Hideo was actually the leader of the project. He was one of the very important part of Konami at that time, because Hideo was in cahoots with PlayStation. And so the guys on PlayStation give Hideo some information, some stuff to make a good game. And so our man Hideo just went in and made some game. The problem with all of this is that Hideo, he just made a very low quality game, and this is what people don't know. Because if you look around in MGS1, you will realize that there is a lot of people that you don't see in the future titles, which is really, really weird. Because if you take a look around, you will see that our man Hideo didn't write MGS1. He wasn't the main writer. So this creates some really, really big implications. That is to say, the man that created most of the stuff that you see in MGS1, that if you just take a small look to the dialogue, you will realize that the quality is much, much superior to all of the games Kojima has done since. And so, if you see that, you will realize that our boy Hideo isn't a very good writer. And so, this English guy, this United States guy, is the actual writer of MGS1, with some women that was around making the translation. So these two peoples are the main brain of MGS1.
I'm interested in expanding financially off of something that we had created, or that I had created in terms of a character. And then I look at it and goes, that's not written by John. That doesn't smell right.
Mr. Sutherland was very professional. He did a really good job. And I do know that Kojima had always wanted to have a Hollywood star part of the process.
Right. I'm sure it's fun for him. I mean, he's such a Hollywood fan, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Is it just his love of Hollywood, where he's always wanted to work with this A-list talent, or what's promoting that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know Kojima at all, really. But I never felt like he was a particularly big fan of mine. I don't think he liked the fact that I got a lot of attention for the role when he was meant to be the rock star of the whole thing.
But all we were doing was matching with English language what the Japanese had done already.
For characters like Mei Ling and then Naomi, who come back in 4, the choice to change the accent was coming from Japan?
Yes.
And no insight as to why that would be?
No.
I just wanted to let you know that. No, that's not the whole truth. Not many people could recognize 4D sound data in a soliton radar file.
Does that kind of inconsistency bother you, or you?
No, it did bother me because they were characters that existed before, and I don't really know why they decided to do that. That very end scene where Otacon romantically mounts the snowmobile. We kept telling them, Americans, it would be like pals. So can we macho it up a little bit? And they're like, no, it has to be like the Japanese version.
Want me to drive?
No thanks. I'd rather do it myself.
No problem.
So that's why Otacon and Snake are riding off into the sunset if Meryl dies.
So Hideo, when he realized this, was really mad. He was some Bakaganshin, how you dare to change my writing? That was his actual reaction, and those people were just let out of the company by some Yakuza guys. A shame, really. If I was the Konami director at that time, I would just grab those two and just make, hey, you are in charge now, and Hideo go clean the bathroom. That would have been my reaction. But that didn't happen, sadly. And then happened what has to happen. That is to say, Kojima just copied Tom Clancy. Yes, I know this is something that most of you will not like to admit, but it's the factual case that Kojima just read some Tom Clancy and just copy everything that was in the books. The problem is that Tom Clancy is an actual Special Forces agent, while Hideo is just some Japanese guy that just steals everything he looks. So you're starting to see the problem with MGS. You start to see what this doesn't matter. And so, there goes the great problem with all of this. Which is a really big shame, because you could have more games with the stuff and such. Like, if I was in charge of MGS1, I would have made the absolute trash that Kojima made. I would have to make Snake a Special Forces agent, and you will be some kind of James Bond, where you will go around and you will stop terrorist groups from making their stuff, and in the end you will just save the day with your group of little nerds, with this Otakon guy, with this Meryl chick, and in the end there is a happy ending for Snake. Sadly, Kojima didn't make that. And so, there goes MGS1. Then come MGS2. Many of the persons, many of the people, many of the guys on YouTube that like to talk about MGS2 all talk about the twist. So saying, oh bro, you don't even play or Snake, this is so crazy. But the reality of the situation is that by the time MGS2 was around, the internet was not very big. So you have to take into consideration that most of the people that talk about that game that were around, me included, I just went into the store one day because I didn't have internet. Like, guys, I was just a small kid. Like, how do you expect me, being a 4-year-old, to just come in the internet and say, bro, I cannot wait for MGS to come around? And like man, that wasn't happening. Like, I just entered the store one day, I saw the MGS2 box, I bought the game, I played the game, I said, oh cool, you play as Snake again. And then, boom, baby, you play as Raiden. And I was like, okay, this guy looks a little bit like a goon, man. Like, he doesn't seem very masculine.
Snake, you're our commander. The least you could do is dress like one. In case you're wondering, no, you can't take those off, so don't even think about it. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll quit teasing you about your code name. Just put some clothes on, please. Fine. You want me to strip down too? There. How do you like that, huh? Happy? All right. No more uniforms. From now on, we're all going naked.
But whatever. But that wasn't my problem with MGS2. My problem with MGS2 was it was just as MGS1, full of gimmicks, that when you play the game again, and this is something that I can actually vouch for, most of the people that talk about this game have not replayed them, because these games are full of gimmicks, to the point that playing the game again is actually really pissing. Like, you will be pissed off after the huge amount of gimmicks that are every 5 seconds in the game. And then you will be thinking, then Kojima, you really like these damn gimmicks, don't you, Kojima? And so I play this game, which wasn't really cool. The only thing that people care about in these kind of games are the fact that how to explain it, the fact that you just come around and there is some cool stuff about the story. The problem is that the story in MGS2 was actually written by some other guy, because the codecs are the most interesting part of MGS2, but the codecs aren't written by Kojima, they're written by this guy. And so this guy, being an anarchist and all of this, he just left the company after MGS2, and you can actually see in the quality of the games that they're really bad after that point. So the two best MGS weren't actually written by Kojima, and you can actually see this when you actually play MGS 3, without talking about 4, without talking about 5. So this actually begs the question, is Kojima a good video game writer? Which he isn't. He isn't. As you can see, my dominance of the camera lets me to be an actual better writer than Kojima, because Kojima doesn't know how to actually manipulate a fucking camera. Oh no, I'm going to just make a 2 hours good scene for the ending. These buckaroo gaijins will not understand me. This is the level of autism you are actually dealing when you play a Kojima game. So, when I was there playing MGS2, I would have actually liked not to play as, hey man, would you like to play as this feminine Slavic boy? Cool. But I actually would have liked if the game, instead of making me play in a boat and then making me play on a really a petrol platform, the game actually let me play as something interesting. For example, in the game, you see that Raiden was a child soldier and his actual name is Jack. So, he was a child soldier in Crimea. So you had this really interesting idea where, imagine a game where you play as young Raiden, being a child soldier, being trained by Solidus Snake. And then you have to kill this father figure. You have to fight against him, which in a thing of saying, hey, this guy that actually take me under his wing, that train me, that give me everything, is actually the villain. He is actually the bad guy. That will have such an impact that you don't get in MGS2. Because, hey man, the president is actually Solidus Snake. And you're like, well, who cares? Who cares? Oh no, he's actually some guy that knew Raiden years ago. Well, who cares? Who cares? This is the problem which these guys don't get very much, because you have to actually make me care about the character, and they don't do it. They don't actually make you care about the character, and this is a really big problem with this kind of games. Which then lead us to the next question. Why is Hideo Kojima so
Glad to be with you, boss. Snake, the sunsets are so pretty here.
Are you feeling okay, Kaz?
Yeah, I mean, I've got MSF business to think about and all. And sometimes it's nice to just sit and watch the sunset, you know?
Yeah.
Snake, would you be up for going to the coast to watch the sunset? Just the two of us?
You're pretty good.
Cut it out. You're making me blush.
Kept you waiting, huh?
Can't wait any longer.
Peace.
Snake, you...
I'm with you.
Oh, Snake, you're gonna make me cry.
Then we add MGS3, where you can actually see the low quality from an inception point, where there are a lot of jokes and stuff, so saying, hey man, you really didn't like MGS2? You see, Hideo Kojima, hate Snake. He can hate Snake, because he isn't me. Me, Hideo Kojima, me, I'm actually an anti-Snake. And then you just there playing the game and holy fuck, the Ocelot is here in this game and such. And it results that the actually main character of the entire MGS franchise is a woman. Yeah, you know, the boss, like, yeah, she's actually a woman that was, she's a Mary Sue with all of the letters. She's perfect, man. So you are there wondering, well, how is Big Boss actually going to defeat this little incarnation of Wonder Woman? And he just like shoots, and boom, she's dead. And so the problem with this game is that it's classic espionage of the 60s. But that doesn't translate very good, because if you see the tone of MGS3 and you compare that with the tone of MGS1 and the tone of MGS2, it's actually very jarring for me. Like, I remember, and when I say I remember, I say last week I played the games. I just like MGS2 more than 3, because the conspiracy, the politics, the way it all is explained is such a neat way in the codec, and the tone of the game, the graphics, everything is better in 2. When you play 3, the tone is more campy. You gotta start to see how Kojima, with the power of autism, actually makes a really bad game. Now, once again, if I was in charge, I would have made a different game. I would actually make for MGS3 a game with the boss, where you play in the Second World War and you see the actual beginning of the Patriots. But that would have been very base for someone like Kojima. So he just made a badly copy of the early James Bond movies, and there you go. Then came MGS4. Now we see full power Kojima. Kojima said, no bro, this is my actual last MGS. And then he went and directed 4 times again. Really curious how that works, huh? Good for us. Their sons hate him, and the wife left him. So, very cool. That's what you get for being a fraud. And then, with MGS4, then all comes crumbling down. Much of the people that talk about MGS don't like MGS4. Some try to make some kind of retrospective where they say, no bro, actually MGS4 is good. And believe me guys, I played the game. It's really disappointing. Like, it's really a bad game all around. Because yes, gameplay is very cool. Like, you have the multiplayer, for example. I remember being a small and innocent kid playing the MGS4 multiplayer, and most of the people like that one more than the multiplayer in 5 or the multiplayer in 3. Because like I say, internet wasn't widespread at that time, by fortune for all of us. But with the game of MGS4, internet was more widespread, so now you have a lot of people playing the multiplayer instead of the very bad multiplayer of the PS2 era. So then, for people that don't know, you actually have to connect to your telephone connection to get internet. So if someone were to make a call, you were actually disconnected, and your parents will be really angry when they saw how much their telephone company was charging them, because like I said, internet wasn't widespread and it was really expensive. And so it was quite dangerous to connect your PS2 to the line that goes to the telephone, and then your parents will say, damn boy, like why is this so expensive? What? And then you will see you playing multiplayer, and you will be destroyed after that. You will have to pay, becoming a member of PMC to pay the bills. And that is how I entered Wagner. And now I'm here. I'm kidding. But then with the power of the PS3, it came MGS4. And this is the problem, because if you see it, the original concept for MGS4 is just what I said that MGS1 should have been. That is to say, you will have Snake going to different places, defeating these different terrorist groups, and then he will have had a happy ending. But then Kojima said, Bakaru! I'm tired of being the Yeah, being a voice actor is hard. It's hard. Like this is the kind of stuff you won't get in a pyrocenical retrospective. Am I right, boss? Am I right? That you get all of these YouTubers making 6 hours videos, and you're like, damn bro, you're just telling me the plot. I freaking love reading Wikipedia articles. I freaking love it. And so, then, I think my throat has recovered. Let's try again. So then Kojima comes and he says, I gotta make actual old man that smokes like 50 cigarettes per day voice. I would have loved to try to make the snake box, but but I think I'm going to destroy my throat if I keep trying. So anyways, let's continue. And then it came MGS4. And in the first place, you have this really interesting idea of, hey, Snake is actually James Bond, and he's going to go around the world trying to stop these terrorist attacks. And then there was supposed to be a time skip where Snake actually became Le Nihilist. He actually became Le Chat Boy. And the Snake would have been around, and he said, Mary left me. I'm sad, Rotacon. I'm really sad. And then Snake, in his pursuit for revenge, he will actually try to stop Ocelot. And that would have been MGS4. Well, in the beginning, you had these terrorist groups and such going around. Then the time skip and AI and machines take control of everything. And then you will have this commentary about how war has changed. Or like Shenaku will say, war has changed. And then you get a 15-minute cutscene. God damn, Kojima. Stop with the goddamn cutscenes. And then comes MGS5 and you say, bro, where are the cutscenes? Like, Kojima? What is the story of the game, Kojima? You promised to me to see the fall of Big Boss stupidity. You will see how the hero becomes the villain. And then he doesn't do anything. The same thing happens with MGS4, where Kojima says, man, I feel like an old man. He doesn't talk like that. Kojima talks more like, Bakaro gozaimasu, into dayo. And then he goes around and he says, bro, I'm actually not Japanese. I fucking love the West. I fucking love America. And then you're like they're wondering, I think this man has lost it. He is Reddit incarnate. He is the fucking Wilson creator. Which for me was like, so this MGS1 and 2 has a really cool conspiracy theories. This is really interesting. But then it comes around MGS3 and you're like, damn, this Kojima guy really fell off. And then comes MGS4 and you feel like a old man and I just don't want to make this anymore, so I'm just going to kill a snake. I hate this snake. I hate him. He's everything that I could not be. Because I'm the Japanese man. And so what I'm going to do is marry Meryl to Lehikin wholesome chungus that actually shits himself. And you're like, Kojima, what the fuck? Like, why? Like, just the thinking process of actually destroying your own creation because you are a sad old man that doesn't know what joy means. Am I right, MGS3 reference? Am I right? And so, then Kojima said, man, I'm just going to pass the torch. I'm old as fuck. And I just want to fuck with this actress that come here because I'm actually have a thing for blondes, you know? I'm like a Japanese guy. And then the guys had Kojima Productions didn't know how to make a next game. So they wanted to make a game with Raiden. Let's play with Raiden again. But this time we're going to play as the Cyber Ninja. That most of the people, because they are fake fans, that didn't play the early games. I'm talking to you YouTube guy, to you specifically. They don't know that in MGS1 in the VR, you could play as the Cyber Ninja. So this wasn't like a new idea. This was actually implemented in the PS1. But Kojima say, go on guys, make a game in the future after MGS4 where Snake is actually dead and you play as as our guy Raiden, plays as Raiden, and then when you play as Raiden, you get this really cool story. This really cool story where Raiden gets brainwashed and he gets destroyed, and you will actually see Raiden become evil. And you see Raiden become evil. And then the guys didn't know how to make it because there was this plan to make a cut everything feature. They didn't know how to make a hack slash. So they just went to Platinum and say, "Hey man, I got this. Like, make a game in 6 months." And Platinum said, "Damn." And then they make this really bad game. Like, I actually wanted to make the future of MGS something like more action than stealth, because it's a really cool idea if you think about it. Like, you are in the future, there are machines, there are AI, there are cyborgs. Like, imagine a game like in System Shock where you have Shodan, but in this game, instead of having Shodan like saying, "Hey man, I'm an AI and I'm going to make message to you," you actually have like some kind of the colonel of MGS2 just standing right then. Like, that would have been so cool, so good. But once again, they just dropped the ball. Once again. Now, I know some people like the story of MGS Rising, but for me the original story is much better. The fact that Raiden gets actually destroyed and he gets brainwashed and you play as the bad guy and then you have to seek revenge and stuff, like, that was so cool. But sadly, they just dropped the story off and you got Lily memes. Am I right, fellas? Am I right? So that is really cringe, because as you can see, it doesn't share the same sentiment that MGS1 and MGS2. So it's an absolute failure, and it was treated as such in that time. So then Kojima said, "Damn man, I cannot leave these guys alone, man. The only one that can make MGS, it's only me." And then he just went on to make some spin-off games. These directors and such, they all have cool ideas in paper. Now, the execution of those ideas was absolutely horrible. And when I say absolutely horrible, I really mean it. Because if you see the PSP games, the 3 of them, the one directed by Hideo Kojima, because when you are playing MGS5, it's more like Hideo Kojima, and then you open the Hideo Kojima, and you see, this is the point where I'm just starting to think this guy is getting really high on his own farts, because you can put your damn name in every single mission, but the product Hideo, guys, this is starting to piss me off. Why every single mission has your goddamn name? And then it came the PSP games, which are really cool on paper, like I said, but the execution is really bad. And that is a huge problem. Because if you see the games, they're actually what I wanted. That is to say, you get Snake investigating some terrorist groups around the world, a la James Bond or a la Hitman. But sadly, the gameplay was absolute trash. I'm looking at you, Acid Games. And then they tried to make some more snaky, some more big boss with portable ops, and the game was once again really bad. I know some people will say, "No, you just got to get..." No. Grab a PSP emulator. Go on. I dare you to grab a PSP emulator and play that game again. I hicking dare you. You won't last not even 5 minutes before dropping the game. Now me, I played it all in the process of making this retrospective, and like I said, they were cool on paper, really bad execution. I really want this guy to like make some other game with the actual technology we have. The same thing happens if you play MGS3. There is this scene where Snake gets a dream, and he dreams about vampires. And you get this really cool section of the game that actually shows you that if these guys made like some action stuff, it would have been really cool. I really like that. That was some Castlevania project, but sadly, they just dropped it. They didn't do it, and which is a shame because it's really cool. But then it came Peace Walker. And Peace Walker is a very big problem. Because yes, it's really cool, like Konami showed to all of the companies that you can make a small, low budget game and still being really cool that adds to the franchise. The problem with this is that once again we were promised the fall of Big Boss, to see how Big Boss becomes the villain. Now you promised me that in Portable Ops, you promised me that in MGS3, and once again you get the same promise in Peace Walker. Promise that doesn't get fulfilled. Because I know some of you will say, bro, but the Snake works with the KGB. He is Le Communist now. There's little reference to communism. You are in Latin America and you play with the communist. Like if I was in charge, like me, the man, the myth, the legend, I would have actually made a game where you could take contracts of the CIA, of the KGB, and different groups, and you have play in this kind of mercenary simulator where you will go around and you just were like kind of like Killzone for the beta, kind of like that, but much more expanded. That is what I would have done with Peace Walker. And in the entire of the Cold War, not only in a little small fraction, like you have actually built Outer Heaven, and you have take contracts with different groups, and you will play this mercenary simulator. But sadly, Kojima once again dropped the ball. Now, very based, making the KGB and the CIA the bad guys. Very based. The problem is, it just doesn't live up to the hype. It doesn't live it. Because, yes, I know some of you will say, damn, Big Boss has just fucked a 16-year-old lolly? Damn, based. The problem is she's a spy with 20, but she looks like a teenage. Yeah, like this is a problem with the actually arguments around the game. I don't care if Big Boss actually fuck Pass or he didn't do it. I don't care. There is a little talking cat in the game. I don't care they're monsters. What I care is that Konami and Kojima could have made a really cool game, a really serious game. I didn't do it. Once again, if you compare the tone of Peace Walker with MGS1 and MGS2, you see this decline, this steep decline that just shows that Kojima doesn't know how to write. And then it came Ground Zeroes. Now, I actually like Ground Zeroes. And this is when I say, guys, I just noticed when when you play Ground Zeroes, the entire tone of that game is completely different to all of the games that came before it. We are once again in the tone of MGS1 and the tone of MGS2, but more serious. Like, this is what was actually promised, to say Big Boss as the bad guy. You see Big Boss as the villain, as the guy that just cares about the money, goes in, there is this political conspiracy around in Guantanamo, and you are like there. And if you read, or better say, if you listen to the cassette tapes, they put some really cool stuff there, like the fact that you could like play football with your soldiers and stuff. There's some mini game that should have been implemented. If you take a look around to all of the stuff that is in Ground Zeroes, it's really cool.
We asked him to drive the CIA out of Costa Rica. To him, this means betraying his country. His forces are smaller than anticipated. They drift from place to place with nowhere to call home. That provided us an opportunity, so we seized it. Zadornov offered them a plant off the Costa Rican coast to use as a base. As expected, Miller jumped at the chance. Although initially reluctant, Big Boss came around when Zadornov played him the tape. All because the voice on it sounded like his mentor, the boss. Naked Snake, the man who once saved the world from the brink of nuclear war. Awarded the title of Big Boss for his service. He later became a mercenary, abandoning both his title and his country. To him, that honor was steeped in the blood of the boss, the mentor he was forced to eliminate. Exceptionally charismatic, he possesses unparalleled combat and intelligence-gathering abilities. His only discernible weakness is her. This operation hinges on how effectively we can exploit that.
Like, man, just living there in the base, interacting with your soldiers and stuff, like going fishing with the soldiers and this, going to the beach, playing some football, like, that was actually promised. Like, hey man, you will be this mercenary guy with your little company, and you will interact with your soldiers, and you will see the individual story, and you will take some love to the guys, and then something happens and they all die. Like, imagine the emotional impact. If you had your soldiers, and you know the actual guys, not as some Excel spreadsheet. No, I'm talking about actually interacting with your soldiers throughout the game, throughout a 30 or 40 hours game, that you get to know your soldiers, you get to like the guys, you say, hey man, you are my best, you are my MVP, and then he dies. Comes in Cypher, they just kill all your soldiers. Imagine the emotional impact that will have instead of, hey man, they just destroy Mother Base. Okay, Kojima, I didn't know any of those soldiers. I didn't know anything about that place except that Gas was there and the Huey was there. But you showed me in the cassette tapes that you could have made a backstory. You could have made Ground Zeroes a big game. They should have just grabbed Cuba and made Cuba the entire map. And you just go around Cuba doing missions and the rest of the area. And then you actually, that was supposed to be MGS5. But Kojima, having touched these taboo segments around all of MGS5, he just went back. He just say, man, I'm not going to touch this, I'm scared. I'm only GP Japanese guy, please, man, Nippon Fenshu. Man, if you are going to take a game about the Cold War, you have to take those stuff. You have to talk about the KGB, you have to talk about the CIA, you have to talk about the corruption of Russia and the corruption of the United States. You have to do it. There is no other way around it. You have to touch the Balkans. You have to touch Yugoslavia. You have to touch Serbia. You have to touch the African states. You have to touch the entire of the dictatorships in Latin America. You have to touch every single stuff that is taboo nowadays. You have to touch China. You have to touch Cuba. You have to touch everything. But Kojima is a coward. You could have made a game where you play as a mercenary in the Cold War. You could have made it, but you didn't make it because you are a coward. And the title of the Japanese that like to, hey man, I'm going to make a game in this period of time that is really political. I'm not going to touch all of the interesting stuff. I'm not going to make a commentary. Hello, Ubisoft, I'm talking to you. And this is something that really pissed me off. All of you guys, all of the game devs, you have an interesting piece of story. Not of, hey man, you are interested in the story of this little... No, I'm not talking about the little ants. I'm talking about human story. Like you have something real, something that happens, something that impacts people. You could make a commentary about it. You could actually grab that stuff and say, hey, we're actually going to make an important commentary about this. We don't want this to repeat in the future. We want people to know about this. But I'm a coward. I cannot touch these taboo things. And that is why I'm again deaf. Because I'm going to touch that. And through the entire video and through my entire videos, you will see how I'm constantly talking about it. How I'm constantly saying, hey, I'm going to make a game about this. This is how I'm going to make it. So, give me money, give me power, give me demands, give me the means, and I will make all of these games. I promise you all, I will not fail, as those in the entire industry have failed you. Trust me, give me the means, give me the power, and I will make it. I will make it. I promise you all. I will make the true MGS5. I will make the true Assassin's Creed. I will make the true Call of Duty. I will make the true Killzone. All of these games that you want, guys, give me the power and I will make it. But alas, people don't care. They just don't care. I made stuff, but no one cares. Because the problem with nowadays is that all comes from the top downwards. That is to say, if the day of tomorrow some guy comes to you and says, man, I love PLP, you should watch his videos. Or maybe the television says so. Or maybe you start seeing things in social media that tell you to watch my stuff and to buy my stuff. Then you will know that I'm being astroturf of the entire political area, the entire gaming industry is all astroturf. There is no organic role here. And that is why you should go and donate. Just kidding. Give me money, can... Nah. Just kidding. So then after that huge failure where we didn't see Big Boss become the villain, which actually the idea of the game is really cool. Like, man, we're going to make a war, a game in the Cold War. They don't make it. they don't make it. Kojima, you are a coward. And then it comes the next step, which is really sad because, like, imagine if the game was actually well done and, like, you had this villain that was a member of the CIA, like, and he was actually the villain, and his plan was to destroy English and such. Like, that's some really cool idea. But sadly, it doesn't get made. It just doesn't work. Or better yet, imagine if Big Boss was actually the villain. Imagine if the game you play as a mercenary and such. And then you get Big Boss. And Big Boss just is there saying, oh, I hate the United States, I hate what it has become, this corruption and stuff. I hate it all. I'm going to make my own place. I'm going to fulfill the will of the boss. And then he goes around the world just starting conflicts, just participating in conflicts, taking the contracts and stuff. And with time passes, Big Boss starts to become jaded. He starts to take contract just for the money. He starts to become, dare I say, a libertarian. And then Big Boss goes around the world just making the contracts. He doesn't care. To the point where he actually kills innocent people. And then is where you recruit your soldiers. There is where you introduce the MGS1 cast. That is where you introduce Foxhound and all of the stuff. Because you could have made the Big Boss figure as a villain much stronger if you actually kill the family of all the people you recruit, and then you brainwash these people to work for you. And then enter Liquid and Solid. You could have made this really interesting thing, not only with saying, hey man, here is how Big Boss knew Frank Jaeger and how he knew Sniper Wolf and all of that, plus a lot of more characters that you could have introduced there, but showing the relationship between Liquid, Solid, and Big Boss. Like, showing how Big Boss feel about being a father. That would have been actually Oscar tier. Like, imagine Big Boss being this distant guy, and he sees his clones. And he knows they are his clones. And he says, man. And he starts to get this thing of real doubt of saying, do I actually look like that? Do I actually act like that? And he starts to really get like, damn man, I'm actually the bad guy. And then you see this comparison between Liquid and Solid, which being a small children and stuff, that's where you could introduce the concept of child soldiers, you goddamn coward. And then we see this relationship evolve. We see Big Boss actually become a father figure. We see Big Boss show a lot of actually David, aka Solid Snake, is my favorite son. And then we see this neglection of Liquid, of Eli. We see this neglection and such. And then you could put those two as part of the main cast. That is to say, you could actually show how Eli and David compete for the attention of Big Boss, with a game about Eli in the 90s or the 80s, being a young guy trying to earn the love of his father. You see when I say that I'm a better writer than all of these guys? You see how I fixed the entirety of MGS? But the entirety of it, I just fix it. there, I fix MGS5 for you. And then it will be the tragedy. Then we will see David being recruited by Foxhound and being sent to destroy Outer Heaven. Like the entire of the game, you will be building Outer Heaven. And then it comes this point where you play as Solid and you go to destroy Outer Heaven. And you infiltrate, and then Big Boss gets killed by his favorite son. And you see this really tragic scene where he says, wow, I actually created my killer. I actually trained my replacement. And you will see this point of passing the torch to the next generation. That is a really big theme with Big Boss. But Kojima, once again, being a coward, he didn't do it. Which is a real shame because that would have been really epic. And then Kojima gets actually deleted of Konami. And bro, imagine MGS5 on this, and imagine the Stranding, the standing. The problem is that if you see the Stranding, in the first place, if you see the Stranding, the idea is really cool. I actually like it. But the problem is the execution of it is actually horrible. Because if you see the original idea of the Stranding, it was this thing about death or another dimension actually has collisioned with Earth. And so there are portals to this other dimension. This is the original story. I'm actually inside your house right now, Kojima. I'm actually there, inside of your little bedroom. I watch everything you do, Kojima. So the original story was really simple. Something strike with Earth, another dimension. Now, the problem with this is that death as a concept exists no more. So what happened next is that death not being no longer a concept, you play as a space marine actually. And you go around with the objective to actually cut this little thing that has collision with Earth. And that is where the Ludens concept comes in. So with death being no more, all of that stuff that was dead, that is to say, think of the dinosaurs, think of every big creature you can think of, will be roaming on an open world, and you will be tasked with going from point A to point B. And there will be, imagine this, imagine you are going with your bike, and you are going there, and then there is a living dinosaur, and he tries to eat you. That was the original idea. It was really cool, really good, but there was a lot of action. Because imagine if Genghis Khan had a jet. All of the humans in the entire history will be fighting on Earth. All of them, plus all of the creatures that have lived. That was the original concept of the story. And you, as an actually elite soldier, will be tasked with cutting this other dimension out of a room with other interdimensional beings that were around just playing, because the concept of death exists no more. The problem is hunger and thirst still exist. So you will have to put these lines where you have to move like resources from A to point B. With all of this happen oversight. That is to say, imagine dinosaurs going around, there go Genghis Khan, you have Alexander Magnus there, you have the Roman Empire, they all being dead, but actually not dead, because they cannot die. The concept of death has been eliminated. You cannot actually die. You keep on living, but you get all of these feelings of being mortal. Place to get, you get hunger, you get thirst, you get sleepy. And then you got all of these groups fighting among them. And you get tasked with pushing out all of that. Thus the complete apocalypse of having another dimension collapse with our own. Because this was made by the Hadron Collisioner. And so you get that travel between dimensions, all of these different things going around on Earth. You could have traveled to another planets, aliens, you name it. It was really cool. It was a really original concept, really cool. But then Kojima said, man, I don't like this. Me don't like it. I actually want to turn the game in a FedEx simulator. You will be an animation employee, going from point A to point B. And he actually said, damn, these Americans, they're really dumb. You don't get it, don't you? Being an animation employee and having this really nonsensical story, this really low quality story, because the dialogue is absolutely horrible. This comes to show that Kojima is a really bad writer. And then most of the people didn't like it. I know some people will say, oh, but no. Most of the people that buy the game talk like, hey, this will be a really psychedelic, really weird game. I'm going to play it. And when they press play, they find out that it was actually, would you like to work for Jeff Bezos? Which most of the people was really disappointed by it, and no one has replayed that game. I can actually assure them that, because it was what happens to me. I bought that game day one thinking, man, this is going to be a masterpiece. It wasn't. And then comes the sequel. We're in the sequel time, Desto Tandem 2. Which, by taking a simple look around, we can see there is a lot more combat now. What was that, Kojima? Bro, if you need combat in the game, you're a damn American. Me, le Japanese people. I'm more intelligent than you American. You don't get this. You don't get this. You don't get the joy of being a little witch lady. And now Kojima just comes in and he says, bro, you actually will use the stick this time. Which is like, just by taking a simple look around to Death Stranding 2, you know that Kojima has lost it. Like, when there was these talks about Silent Hills, I actually knew Kojima didn't have it in it to write a good story. But with Death Stranding 2, I can actually saw it. I can see it. Because the simple idea of, man, like, what's even the point? Like, you have all of these interesting concepts that you could have used, and you decide to make a boring game in purpose. You decide to grab all of that cool stuff you could make and just throw it to the trash and make a bad game in purpose. You betray yourself for nothing. Which is a real shame. It's a real shame. But that's Hideo Kojima, guys. He's hurt in a personal level. The fact that their parents didn't like him, they just abandoned him alone in his house and he had to just watch movies to pass time. The fact that his son hates his games, that his wife left him, that he has to pay actors to just come around and say, man, I'm trying to finish here, I'm just going to suppose I'm your friend, give me money. Which is really sad, man. It's really sad. It's really sad, Kojima, but you are a fraud. you are a hack. And I have showed through the entire video that my ideas are better than your own. So, I'm talking to the audience here. Maybe there will be some important executives looking through my stuff. But I'm going to talk to the audience mainly. If you want to see these ideas realized, if you want at least 1% of all of the stuff I talk in this video done, if you want these dream games to come true, please just go in the link and donate. I know some people will say, oh, guys, I'm working in a lot of stuff. I'm working in 3 books, I'm working in 3 comics, I'm working in more than 10 games at the same time. I'm working in some engineering stuff, I'm working in some food stuff, I'm working in clothes, I'm working in everything. The problem is, if I don't get money to buy and do the stuff, I cannot do it. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. I got all of it, but I don't have the capital to buy it. So, for instance, you get the little Steam. I got to go there and pay $100 just to get my game in, plus all of the taxes that I have to pay. So, if you guys come in and donate money to me, I can make all of this faster, because right now I cannot dedicate the entirety of my time making games, making comics, writing books, making music, making all of this stuff for free, mind you. And it's like, guys, if I don't have money to show at the end of the month doing this, I cannot excuse it. Like, it's just as simple. If if I just had to say, hey, I'm making all of these YouTube videos, I'm making all of this, I'm making these games, I'm making these comics, I'm making all of that, and I don't earn anything, well, guys, it's just like, I cannot excuse giving the entirety of my time to this. At some point, I had to actually work in a real job to pay the bills. And that is why, if you go to the link and donate money, or even buy some of the stuff I'm selling there, it's a great use for me, because then I can actually go and say, hey, I earned some money with this. I can do it the entirety of the time. I can do it the 24 hours a day, and then you will see an actually speed bust to all of this. Otherwise, I have to keep working my job, and working, being a little wage slave takes most of your time. Like, being a guy that actually plays Death Stranding in real life, mind you, I actually get paid for delivery. I get paid $0.1, and per day I get 1 or 2 deliveries. So my earnings are pretty dire. They're pretty dire. So, like I said, guys, if you want me to keep doing stuff, you will have to give a small money. Now, I don't need a huge quantity of money. Like, I got a real clear idea of how much money I need to survive for the rest of my days. That is to say, I only need $5,000. That's all I need. So, every little help counts to get to that point. And after that, there will be no more problems. I will make this my main job. But until I get to that point, I have to keep being a little wagey I have to keep studying, and I have to do this as a little hobby on the sideways. That knowing that I make comics, I made the 3D models, I made the music, I write the stuff, I made this, I made that, I made the YouTube videos, I program the games, I made the engineering, I make the clothes. I mean, guys, I'm making more of 60 things at the same time, and it gets really tiring. And like I say, you want me to do this, and you want the games, you want the stuff being made quick, fast, boom, 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 boom. I need the money to excuse it. It's just that simple. That's how the world works. I have been making this for free for years, but it has gone to a point where look, guys, I have to keep working like a little wagey to pay the bills. That takes me a lot of hours out of the day. Then I had to study. And then if I had 20 minutes, I can spare to do this kind of stuff. Which is a real shame. Right now it's 4 a.m. and I'm actually making this video before going to work. So, like I say, guys, if you want to keep looking at stuff, if you want me to make these games, I'm going to make them. But there's a difference between, hey man, and this week I just made 5 minutes of programming, and hey, this is my main job now. I can do this the 24 hours a day. And for that, I just need to get X amount of money. Like I say, $5,000. It's not much. But that will allow me to make this my main job. So, if you want to see it, if you want to help me, go to the link and donate. Even $1 is more than enough. Like I said, just donate the amount you want if you want this made quick. Otherwise, you are going to have to wait 10, 20 years. And I'm sorry, guys, those are the rules. You want me making this my main job? I'm making games real quick, real fast, like bam, bam, bang. Well, guys, you will have to give me a hand if you want that. If you want me to make this my main job, you have to give me the means and the excuse to present at the end of the month that I can actually live by this. Like, if I don't have enough money to pay the bills, I'm sorry, guys, I just cannot do this all of the time. It will just remain a little hobby. Now, if you want to help me make the jump, there is the link in the description. Go in, donate $1 if you want, and I don't know if this actually makes numbers. We will see. Be out until next time.